almost 10 months. And the biggest news today was the indictment of the Obama administration and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Comey admitted that Lynch successfully was able to pressure him into toning down his own language when speaking publicly about Hillary Clinton's email investigation. Wow. We're going to do a deep dive into that also tonight. But I want to go back to several things I said about James Comey right here in this program on May the 9th. That was the night that he got fired. And the reason that it's so necessary to do this is you cannot look at today's testimony, as some in the media are, in this little itsy-bitsy bubble. All of Comey's past actions are relevant. Equal justice under the law. It matters. Now, Comey, this is the important part. He failed you, the American people, at every single turn. He disrespected our Constitution. He didn't care about equal application of the rule of law. He created a two-tier justice system, one for Hillary and Bill Clinton and one for the rest of America, by ignoring the many, many crimes we know she committed. For example, remember when Comey laid out everything that was found on Hillary Clinton's private email server that she stuffed in a mom-and-pop shop bathroom closet that had top secret, classified, and even special access program information on it. Take a look at this.
There is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received. Any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system. But their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff, like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail.
Now, Comey literally explained that Hillary Clinton broke several laws, committed several felonies, but then what? We saw him do what he's done now multiple times. He started to play politics instead of doing his job. Now, for the record, if you or I did a fraction of what Hillary Clinton did, we would tonight be sitting in a jail cell. Like Christian Saucier, remember the guy behind bars for a year? He took 6 pictures inside the submarine he was so proud of working in. And then, of course, there's the Clinton Foundation and the pay-to-play scheme and the Uranium One deal. Hillary Clinton gave away 20% of America's uranium. Now, by the way, there's a real Russia scandal. Why didn't Comey bother to investigate or look into any of these things? Now, the answer is simple, and it continues to be exposed. Sadly, James Comey is nothing more than a partisan and a political hack, as I said on the 9th. And by the way, his testimony once again today proved that. Let's start with Comey's motives. From the very beginning, it was very clear that he was seeking revenge and was only out to create smoke and confuse people and confuse the issues around all of this. And Comey admitted that he was bitter and upset about being fired, disgruntled, and being called out by the White House for failing miserably at his job. And then there's this exchange, which shoots down any narrative of obstruction of justice. It's gone. It's finished. Take a look.
He said, "I hope." Now, like me, you probably did hundreds of cases, maybe thousands of cases, charging people with criminal offenses. And, of course, you have knowledge of the thousands of cases out there that where people have been charged. Do you know of any case where a person has been charged for obstruction of justice, or for that matter, any other criminal offense, where they said or thought they hoped for an outcome? You may have taken it as a direction, but that's not what he said.
Correct. That's what
he said, "I hope."
Wow. Amazing, right? Now, by the way, we're putting the law up on the side of the screen, and as we noted last night, if Comey thought that there were crimes being committed, he had a legal duty to come forward immediately. But Comey did not do that. Then there's the obvious question everybody's asking. During this conversation with the president that Comey was so apparently troubled by, well, why didn't he just get up and say, "Mr. President, I think this is inappropriate. I think this is wrong"? Well, watch this exchange.
Why didn't you stop and say, "Mr. President, this is wrong. I cannot discuss this with you"?
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger, I would have. I was so stunned by the conversation that I just took it in.
Maybe if I was stronger? That's his job. And by the way, here's another thing. If he was so concerned about the president and he told the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, that he didn't want to be left alone in a room with him, then why did Comey continue to take the president's calls after all this had allegedly happened? Now, next, there's this major revelation from Comey. You got to watch this. Pretty amazing.
Director Comey, did the president at any time ask you to stop the FBI investigation into Russian involvement in the 2016 U.S. elections?
Not to my understanding, no.
Did any individual working for this administration, including the Justice Department, ask you to stop the Russian investigation?
No.
So many lies told to you by the media. Once again, Comey admitting that nobody asked him to stop the Russia investigation. Now, let's move on to the next major point. After Comey was fired, he decided to leak information to the press. This is so unbelievably inappropriate and maybe a violation of law. We'll ask that question later. Watch this.
Did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
Wow. So the fired, disgruntled ex-employee, ex-FBI director leaked details of his memo, hoping that it would bring about a special counsel? Now, this is beyond ridiculous, beyond inappropriate. And by the way, it shows you how calculated and political this guy really is. And you have to wonder, what else? Comey, did he leak before or maybe ordered others to leak? Now, as Senator Marco Rubio pointed out, amazing point today, the only thing that wasn't leaked in all of this is the fact that President Trump was not under investigation. By the way, he was told 3 times. Now, of course, this is likely to have been done on purpose. And finally, there's the biggest bombshell revelation from today, and that is the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, was able to actually influence Comey in the Clinton investigation. Watch this.
The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it. And I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter.
Nah, not an investigation. It's a matter. And add one point here. What about the meeting Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch had on the tarmac in a private jet? What did they talk about before Loretta Lynch had made her decision? That is the huge scandal here and the abuse of power by the Obama administration. Lynch trying to influence the investigation, going directly to the FBI director. How is that not obstruction of justice? And why didn't Comey come forward and report that? And again, did he maybe break the law? We'll ask our legal experts throughout the show. Now, also, why didn't Comey create a detailed memo about that conversation with Loretta Lynch? Now, this shows you that there is a massive double standard. Now, Comey let something like that happen with Lynch, but is now trying to go after President Trump. And by the way, Comey's biases, they're so extreme, there's so many other examples. Now, Comey testified that he took, detailed memos of all of his conversations with President Trump. He didn't trust him. He thought he might lie, but he didn't do the same thing to President Obama. Now, Comey also never put Hillary Clinton under oath while she was being interviewed by the FBI, and by the way, never demanded that her conversations be recorded. Why is that? And biggest of all, Comey was desperate to come out and clear Hillary Clinton's name, but he refused to do the same thing for President Trump, who, by the way, as I mentioned, he told 3 times, told the president he wasn't under investigation. And then finally tonight, we have been saving this one for you on purpose. After so many months, about 10 months, of endlessly pushing back all of these black helicopter, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. What did we learn today? That there is no such thing as a Trump-Russia collusion. The media has been endlessly, breathlessly lying to you night after night after night, day after day. And today, they even had to admit it. Of course, the big network of black helicopter theories and tinfoil hat conspiracies is NBC. Just listen to even their own Chris Matthews, Mr. Thrill Up His Leg himself. Listen to this admission.
The assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory, because in two regards. The president said, according to the written testimony of Mr. Comey, go ahead and get anybody's satellites to my operation and nail them. I'm with you on that. So that would mean Manafort, Carter Page, someone else like that. And then he also came across what was fascinating. Comey said that basically Flynn wasn't central to the Russia investigation.
A moment of enlightenment, even for Chris Matthews. It all came apart today. There was never anywhere in any case, any admission about Trump-Russia collusion. And by the way, we were the only ones in the media who cared about looking into this deeply and telling you, the American people, the truth, and not going with lies and innuendos and propaganda and misinformation because they were advancing a political agenda. You know, the same media that colluded with Hillary Clinton in the last election, as exposed by WikiLeaks. We have been right night after night after night. These idiots in the media, almost all of them, have been flat out wrong. All conspiracy theorists, time in and time out. So guess what? It's time for those so-called journalists with their superior attitude. Maybe they should take off their tinfoil hats and put their black helicopters back in the hangars, because it's over. You have been exposed for the liars you are to the American people. And it's sad all that you have been doing all of these months without any evidence. And we've been showing you person after person after person saying no evidence of collusion. And you still kept running with a false narrative. Joining us now with reaction, President Donald Trump's son. He was on a Twitter rampage today, Donald Trump Jr. Sir, welcome back.
How's it going, Sean?
Just give me your general thoughts first. I obviously said a lot there.
Yeah, I think you probably covered it all in that monologue. I was just sitting here eating popcorn. But listen, you said it
Gee,
best.
thanks a lot.
This has been a 10-month witch hunt. This is the only thing that they had on Trump. This is what they did to distract him from being able to get the stuff done that he was elected to ultimately do. And I think now that this is all past, he can go back to doing what he promised he was going to do. There's no clouds. There's nothing getting in his way. They can't be obstructionist. He can go back to doing the things he said he was going to do for the American people, putting Americans back to work, putting America first, and getting us out of these stupid deals that America pays for and everyone else seems to benefit from but us.
You know, Don, maybe you're a bigger man than me, but to me, politically, they've been trying, they've been trying to take him out.
Yeah.
And there's been so many lies here. Number one, for example, not only did he not encourage Comey to stop, he encouraged him to go forward with the investigation, even satellites around him, meaning the people that are close to him in his campaign and elsewhere. He never was being investigated. Comey wouldn't tell anybody. Comey then turns out to be the big leaker. He would never tell anyone about that.
He would never mention that. But Rubio said it best. That's literally the only thing that hasn't been leaked in D.C. during this time period. The fact that he was never under investigation, that there was never a shred of evidence that he did this. But this is what they hung their hat on for this long. And that's pretty scary to me. That's sad.
In three specific cases here, I believe that Comey was a political hack. I mean, there was incontrovertible, overwhelming evidence of multiple felonies committed, and he laid out the case probably better than anybody, but never pursued it. He said, well, we don't have the intent. Meanwhile, you have a server in a private mom-and-pop shop closet bathroom. Yeah. That's intent to... Obviously, that's mishandling of classified information and the destruction of classified information. Then, of course, the Uranium One deal, a real Russia scandal. Then, of course, this whole Loretta Lynch issue. meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton before she makes her decision, A, and then the big bombshell today, please don't call it an investigation. Just call it a, what's the word she, whatever material she said.
Yeah. Well, listen, the double standard between the way he handled that with Loretta Lynch and the way he handled my father, I mean, that just goes to show you how politicized this has all been. I mean, I think his credibility in D.C., after probably an illustrious career, has to be shot because that shouldn't be happening. I mean, this is the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. The head of the FBI goes on, well, if I was a stronger man. I mean, who are we kidding, Sean? I mean, what kind of response is that?
Pathetic.
I mean, this guy's the head of the FBI, and that's his response? Not, hey, maybe I should follow the law and procedure and say that Trump was doing this. Maybe I should let him know that this was happening. But instead, he decides to do this. Then he leaks some notes to a friend of his because he doesn't have the guts to do it himself. He has to leak it through a friend of... I mean, where does this stop? I mean, it is nuts, but I'm just glad it's all out there because literally... Even the left, as you pointed out, with Chris Matthews saying, hey, guys, it's over. Let's move on. You know what? Let my father do his job. Let him do what the American people elected him to do.
Don, I would love to say that that's going to happen.
No, they won't let it go.
Well, it's even that, but it's even deeper. When you think of the level of vitriol, hate, it's been directed at you and your brother. They're even attacking your sister and your 11-year-old brother and the president's wife and anybody close to him or anybody that expresses a like towards him and agrees with him. To me, this is about undermining the will of the American people and so delegitimizing, so damaging, so distracting. At the least, he doesn't fulfill the agenda that people elected him for. That is a serious problem in the country.
I think it is. And I mean, but the good thing about it is, honestly, I think the left has overplayed their hand so much, Sean. It's been so ridiculous, so over the top, so extreme. I mean, half the things that were reported in the New York Times, the dossier comments, all that. Even Comey, in his own words, said,
Comey wanted to hire the guy.
Hey,
he wanted to hire that guy, that
MI6 flat out wrong. Even he's saying it. So, you know, all these things that they tried to take him out with, I think it's pushed reasonable people in here. You're never going to get the fringes, or you have one fringe and you'll never have the other. But reasonable people in the middle are seeing that this has just been one big witch hunt. They see how disgusting the swamp really is. They see the teeth that are there. And I think they're going to realize that, hey, give the guy a chance. Let him do what he was elected to do, and he'll do a phenomenal job. And you've seen that. Listen, when the Dow hits another all-time record right during the testimony, you know that he's been exonerated. I mean, the markets basically said, okay, this has been nonsense. You know, we broke another all-time high today because they saw how phony all of this D.C. nonsense is. And this is what the people voted against last time. I'm happy for them to keep doing it. It's just going to make 2020 that much easier.
You know, I want to go back to the media in particular and all of the conspiracy theories that have been advanced. And literally, we're talking about cable-wise, thousands of hours of coverage, thousands. Then you look at the Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN and ABC and all these networks proven wrong, and now all of a sudden they're beginning to write their retractions. It just seems as something that I said back in 2007 and 8, journalism in America is dead. The desire for truth, it's over.
You know what? The real problem is, even when they know it's wrong, as long as it fulfills their narrative, they'll leave it up there. They'll leave it up for an extra couple hours. The retraction somewhere in the middle. It just never really goes away. They can't let go. And it's not about reporting the truth anymore, Sean. It's not about journalism. You know, even when I was born with, hey, we report the news. Then it became sort of journalism, we'll put our spin on the news. Now we're just going to craft narratives and just run with it. It's pretty sad, and it's a shame because it would be an important profession, and it's why he's on Twitter all the time. He's going to play monkey in the middle. He's going to play monkey in the middle because if they're not going to be honest, if they're only going to report what they want to hear, not what he actually says, he's going to go right to the people. And that's how he got elected.
And by the way, I'm a convert to him being on Twitter because I agree he's got to bypass this corrupt media. And I think after all the exposure, and this will pan out in the next number of days, we got to do it. You're a bigger person than me. I think I'd be a little angrier than you tonight. And
it's only because it's late, and I've been going pretty hard all day.
A job to do. Yeah, well, that's true. I actually enjoyed your tweets during the testimony. I was retweeting a lot of it later. All right, Don Jr., thank you.
Good seeing you, Sean.
And up next, on this busy breaking news night, a 2-hour live edition of Hannity. Up next.
At the time, did you say anything to the president about that is not an appropriate request, or did you tell the White House counsel that is not an appropriate request? Someone needs to go tell the president that he can't do these things?
I didn't, no.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio emerging a big star today on his grilling of James Comey. Laura Ingraham will join us and react. Then later, we'll also have more. Jay Sekulow, Monica Crowley, and so much more. Also, a 2-hour edition till midnight Eastern tonight on Hannity.
A lot of Western people don't know much about you. We'd like to know about your background and where you came from. People say Trump is in the Kremlin's pocket. Why did Russia hack the election?
The Putin Interviews, a 4-night event only on Showtime. Start your free trial now.